This season of Beyond the Brand is brought to you by Leader. For more information, visit leader.co.
Most people wait for success to happen to them, but our next guest teaches you how to build it by design. Richard Kean is an elite executive coach and the founder of Richard Kean Coaching, where he helps high achievers, entrepreneurs, and leaders break through their self-imposed ceilings. By combining strategic mindset work with high-performance habits, he turns potential into proven results. Please welcome Richard Kean. And Richard, you work with people who are already successful, yet they feel like they've plateaued. What's the biggest difference between someone who is just busy and someone who is truly operating at a high performance level?
Well, I think knowing who you are and really operating from there. I think when we're not grounded in our heart and being authentic, we're not operating from our true power. And so I think in the world today, we get a little too analytical and we lose track of knowing who we are. And that creates a lot of stress, because you're not operating from really being yourself. So I would say being yourself and owning who you are really helps simplify things. And I work with people to get out of being in your analytical mind and get grounded into knowing who you are and operating from there. I think that really changes things.
Richard, how do you do that? Are there steps people can take?
Well, I think, Stan, that's a perfect question. Good question. I think step number one is being just a humble learner, being willing to want to know something different. If you're not coachable and you're like, your ego's in place and going, well, I don't need to know anything, that'll leave you kind of stuck. So I've always been a constant learner. And I think the first part is noticing if you're analytically up in your head and being logical. A lot of the world is living up in being trying to use the intellect way too much. And there's a phrase called the prison of the intellect. And if we're not careful, we can reside up in our intellect way, way too much. And then that causes stress. That causes not operating from who you really are, being way too analytical. And people also, they feel that. They're like, who am I really speaking to? So I listed myself on this thing as an authenticity coach. And that's really what I work with people is how do you authentically value and know who you are? And things operate a lot better from that.
A lot of people, like you said, operate from that analytical side because they think it's better, smarter, making them seem like they're bigger than what they really are. But how does anybody connect unless you're authentic?
That's true. I mean, you feel it. You can tell when somebody feels authentic to you, okay? But the biggest question is, when I coach with people and I work, I'm like, you have to decide you're valuable enough within yourself to drop your guard and allow people to see who you really are. And if you're not doing that, there's some mechanism, for some reason, we're protecting ourselves. And I saw a Deepak Chopra thing one time. He said defenselessness can never be defeated. So it's like, why are we defending ourselves? And there's a lot of energy that's exerted in this. If you don't buy into that you're valuable enough to be seen and we're defending ourselves, then we lose our authenticity because we haven't decided we're valuable enough as we are. So I work with people to decide that you're valuable enough to be authentic. And there's an ego protection mechanism in there that really, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, but the longest journey you'll ever take is from your head down into your heart. But that's the journey you were designed to take. Once you take that, you get down into being who you really are, and life gets way more simple, and you become much more powerful because you're grounded in being yourself, and people can feel that. They drop their guard too, because you're dropping your guard.
Do you think it's they've got this inner critic within them and they have to be a perfectionist for somebody to like them?
Well, you're talking to somebody who used to be a world class with an inner critic. So I used to be in a men's group, and one of the gentlemen who was running it, he's like, okay, this gentleman over here has a critic, but nothing like Richard's. So that's a big part of my work I had to do, was the inner critic work. I did a lot of Don Miguel four agreements work. I went to Mount Shasta with his son for a retreat. That inner critic can dominate. And I remember in a meditation that his son led up there on Mount Shasta, was like, people worry about the pollution that's on the planet or in the world. But he said, what about the pollution that we hold inside our minds? And I was like, ooh, that's okay. For me, there's a lot in there. And that is powerfully relevant. I had to do my own work to fix that inner critic. And for myself, I mean, the phrasing I used is I called it the rising of my inner wise, compassionate adult, to intervene in that inner conversation and learn to self-value who I was. And that was a process. And over time, that inner critic really settled down. And then that made it way easier for me to take that shield and I was using to protect myself and go, okay, holding the shield's taking a lot of energy and a lot of effort, and drop that shield. And when I work with people, it's like you have to make a decision that you're valuable enough, and people may have an inner critic that's not allowing them to make that decision. But you have to decide you're valuable enough that you don't want to hold that shield up anymore. And then you buy into that you're valuable enough. And like, I feel like life's a journey. We need to learn and decide that we're finally valuable enough. And then you can stand in yourself rather than standing up for yourself. And there's way more power in standing in who you are. And then you don't have to defend. So that's kind of been my own journey. And I'm teaching that and working with other people to do that work.
You had that aha moment, it sounds like. What does it mean to you when you work with an individual and you see them have that aha moment and that whole thing shifts within them?
It feels really gratifying to help somebody, because for me, that journey was extremely arduous. And I went to so much different personal growth stuff. And I'm like, how do you do this? Why am I just the slow learner in the group? What's going on? And so to help somebody, it's like, hey, you go through this doorway to learn to decide that you're valuable, and all the old languaging and the old stories that are inside are not actually accurate. Okay. And it gets that it's very profound. You know, like I was working with a gentleman the other day, and I says, now you're in your heart. That's actually you. And you have to decide all the information that's negative about yourself doesn't belong anymore. And it's time for that to be healed and removed, so you understand and see yourself as valuable. And that's going to calm down a lot of things. So now you don't have to defend, because you're finally deciding you're valuable, not in an egotistical way, but in a humble way. And you're finally learning what you were sent here to learn. I think we're sent here to learn in a humble way that we're valuable. So.
We all have a purpose. And Richard, I know there are some folks out there watching going, how do I get in touch with this guy? Where can they find you?
So I'm right in the middle of getting my new email, which would be Richard at Kean, Kean, coaching.com. And then I have keancoaching.com, and you can contact me there.
All right, Richard, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly.
Be sure to scan the QR code on your screen to sign up for BizTV's monthly newsletter, The Biz Beat, where you'll get articles, business news, and columns by BizTV's personalities, all sent directly to your inbox.